Hello everyone, welcome back to episode 72. Thank you very much for joining me, and as always, thank you for your lovely reviews, which really help me to grow this podcast, so I'm very, very grateful for every single one of them that you leave. How are you? I hope you are very well. I am very well. So this week, inspired by this delightful grey, rainy weather that we're having, I'm going to be talking about embracing the seasons of life that you're in and how that can lead to a more fulfilling and present life. If there's one thing that we can all agree on, it's that nothing ever stays the same. Life is a cycle, and within that life are many other ever-changing cycles, just like the planet that we live on has got spring and summer, autumn and winter, or if you live anywhere in the north of England, autumn, and winter. Us humans go through different seasons of our life too. And each season that we're in will bring its own experiences, its own memories, its lessons, challenges, opportunities, and each one of those phases is different. So if we think about the springtime, then we think about new beginnings, new life, fresh starts. Lots of people like to kind of spring clean the house, ready to bring in new, fresh energy that goes with that season. It's the season where if you were a gardener, and let me tell you, I am not, the succulents on my bathroom window are audibly gasping for life when I go in there. But if you were, you'd be planting seeds at this time. So it's a really good season to plant your ideas, ready to bring them into life. It's the real new year if we were to ignore this like false calendar that we've been given. And it's the time where naturally we'd be kind of coming out of our caves and animals will be coming out of hibernation and we'd be feeling very refreshed and renewed. And then we move on to the season of summer, which brings to mind high energy and long days and heat, and in nature like colourful plants and flowers, and everything's basically at its peak during summer. And as humans, it's a time where we're most likely to be social, get them fucking Barbies going, I don't care if it's raining or not, I'm ready to be invited. We feel most connected because we spend a lot of time outside. We experience like elevated mood and energy, and that's because we're being charged up by the little slit of sun that's shining through the clouds, and feelings of like possibility and just general happiness. Summer is the season where the good times roll, basically, unless like me, you've got big tits and you spend a good chunk of it hanging off the bed in front of a fan trying to cool down. But overall, it is the season that most people associate with feelings of like high vibration. And then after that, we've got autumn, or if you are one of those fancy Americans that I know are listening, fall. I'd much rather we called it fall. I feel like that's well cuter. And that's when we tend to see the most change, because we see changes between each of the seasons, obviously, but none that are more obvious than the change between summer and autumn. The sun's not as high in the sky, the days are a bit shorter, the leaves start going brown, and personally I get an overwhelming compulsion to dress in only rust-coloured polo neck jumpers, and I can barely make it through the day without a Starbucks toffee nut latte. So it's the season where we let go of things and release things that we've been holding on to and that are, you know, keeping us held back, and it's the season where we slow down and start to move into a rest period. I think it's the best season ever, in my opinion, because although in the 3D, at least if you live in England, it's mostly just continuous rain and soggy floor, through my 5D rose-coloured glasses, I'm like pumpkin picking, I'm having photo shoots in Central Park, I'm walking in piles of crunchy leaves in a camel coat, I'm making homemade pecan pies for my neighbours, I'm attending romantic firework displays with the non-existent love of my life. So autumn is actually a firm favourite for me because it represents letting go and stopping holding on to things that are no longer serving us. And that could be anything in your life. And then finally, we've got winter, which is the time of rest, of going inward, of reserving your energy and reflecting on the year that's passed. It's time to take care of yourself and focus on your self-care. Probably eat yourself into a food coma. Nobody eats salad in November. It would be obscene to do that. So it's a season that's like recharging your batteries basically for the new cycle to begin again, for when spring comes. And now obviously that cycle continues each year until we slip off the plate. So we get to experience those real seasons over and over again. But if we compare our life to one of those years, then we can probably identify like which of those 4 seasons we're currently into. Sometimes parts of the season that we're in can feel very difficult and challenging. So it's important to keep in mind that nothing ever stays the same. Everything is always changing. So with that in mind, I want to talk a little bit about what other seasons or phases is maybe a better word for this part, that most of us experience at some point throughout our lives. So when we're young, let's say like in our later teenage years up until maybe our early 20s, life can be quite tough, I think. Going from being a child to becoming an adult is a very, very steep learning curve. And we are this ball of unpredictable, like erratic hormones, and we're learning to become independent while still having quite a lot of restrictions on us because of our age. And it's probably one of the times in our life where we feel the most insecure about our appearance and ourselves in general, and we're really just desperately wanting to be these fully fledged adults, and we're looking for that feeling of freedom. And there can be quite a bit of conflict in this stage, whether it's inner conflict or conflict with others. We're usually moody little fuckers and spending a lot of time feeling frustrated and annoyed, and let's be honest, just acting like a bit of a knob for most of us. But those years are also filled with some of the best memories that you'll make in your life, because you're probably living at home, so you've got loads of money because you've probably also got a job, more money than you realise you're going to have for the significant future. Most of your pals will be single, so you're spending a lot of time with them. You've not got any kids or responsibilities, so you could literally just get up and travel around the world if you wanted to. And we spend that period of our life chasing this freedom that we think will come from earning a lot of money and owning a home and all of that shit, when actually we have more freedom than we'll probably ever have again in our life. But they do say youth is wasted on the young, don't they? And then there might be a time in your life, not in mine though, I might add, but I have included this because it's quite a common one, but maybe in yours, where you have very young children. You might have just had a baby and you might be feeling absolutely fucking knackered and feeling isolated and feeling like you're trapped in the house surrounded by Lego. And I don't know, do babies have Lego? I don't know about that one. This is why I don't have kids. I actually once tried to feed my friend's kid a Kinder Egg surprise before she had teeth, and she nearly choked to death. She didn't, but we did have to throw her around the room like a stressful game of pass the parcel, past the choking newborn. But anyway, this phase might feel quite lonely, emotional, restrictive. So it's important to remember that those hard times are going to pass, and soon you'll have a toddler, and then you'll have a school-age kid, and before you know it, you're going to have like another adult child in addition to your husband. So there's going to be a last time where you do a feed, or a last time where you pick them up from school, or a last time where you pick them up at all, or even a last time that they live in the same house as you. So even when it's really hard and you're tired and pissed off, keep that in mind, that that will pass. And this phase of feeling like you're just someone's mum or dad and you've not got any other identity because it's such an all-consuming job, you'll look back on that and you'll probably forget about the harder times and wish that you could have just your small sprog back in the future when you're older. That, I imagine, would come about the age of 14, when they're slamming all the doors in the house and telling you how cruel and unfair you are and what an absolute bastard you are for not letting them go to a rave at an abandoned warehouse. So, yeah, think about what you're going to look back on and what will you miss from that period of time in your life. There might be a phase of your life where you're like hustling and you're not really getting much return. You're working all the time and you've got no time to socialise because you're working so hard on something. And I am just going to add there, as a bit of a reminder, that all work and no play makes Jack a very dull boy. So try not to be consumed with your work. But I do appreciate, because I'm in it right now, that if you are pursuing a passion, whatever that might be, and you're working to get out of something that you don't want to be in and into something that you would like to be in, might be starting your own business or maybe studying for a qualification so that you can move into your dream career, then there will be times where you feel overwhelmed and you feel tired and you feel like your social life is suffering and you feel under pressure. You might be working in one job during the day and then coming home to work on your passion in the evenings and at weekends because it's not yet paying you enough money to sustain you on your own. You might have to pour all of the money that you do have into a pursuit that you feel like you want to go after, and you might feel like you're completely on your arse skint. But there might be times where life is quite difficult in that phase. You're probably going to eat a lot of pot noodles through either a lack of time to cook or a lack of money to buy anything else. But those days, you will look back on those when you are enjoying your meal that's been cooked in a posh restaurant by a Michelin star chef, and you're working in your fancy office in your dream home. They are the moments that you will look back on, and they're the ones that are going to make you feel the most appreciation and the most gratitude for the challenges that you faced earlier on. So you might, like me, be in your single gal or single guy era, perhaps unexpectedly. Maybe you thought that things were going well. You might have thought that you were going to get married, that you were going to have kids, and then you found yourself single. And in lots of cases, I think people are chasing after a partner thinking that you can't be happy or that you can't feel fulfilled or you can't live your life until you meet this illustrious right one. But if you are feeling like that, that isn't really what you're going to bring in. You've got to embrace the season that you're in and feel happy as you are on your own before you can bring in that person that's going to add happiness, more happiness on top of the happiness that you already bring to yourself. And really, in the scheme of things, if you think about it, the years that you are single are very brief in the grand scheme of things. I think maybe I'm potentially dragging mine out a little now. But that is because even though I'm open to a relationship at last, I also do really, really value this phase where I've got no one else to consider. I can do what or who I want. I'm just kidding, kind of. But if you are single and you feel like your life is on hold because of that, then keep in mind that this phase of your life will likely end one day, and probably one day in the not too distant future. And then you will be happily spending your life with that right person. But you'll also probably be lusting after the days when you didn't have to share the pack of chocolate eclairs and you could just eat them yourself in peace with your cat. So embrace the freedom that comes with those phases of life where you're single. I would say spending some time on my own has been one of the most valuable, if not the most valuable, experiences for my personal growth ever. It's given me independence and it's given me a lot of time to spend with my friends. It's given me new experiences and it's allowed me to have the space to come out of that hamster wheel of a relationship where you meet someone and then you move into a house and you get engaged and you get married and then you have a baby and then you have another baby and then you're fucking miserable in lots of cases. So it's taken me off that path and given me time to think about find out who I actually am and what I really want from life without the influence of someone else obscuring the view. So embrace the single gal years is my advice. There might also be a time where you're experiencing some kind of loss. So that could be grief, or it could be, loss of a friendship or a relationship. It's a season where something comes to an end and it's quite difficult and painful. And it's often so difficult and painful that we try to skip it. I definitely have. I know I am guilty of that in the past, is trying to skip through that difficult phase of our life by suppressing how you actually feel about that situation, whether it's grief from somebody who's passed away, or whether it's loss of a relationship, whatever kind of loss you've gone through or go through in the future, it's really important, I've learned, that like any other phase, you've got to allow yourself to be present in that challenging phase. So whether it's that you're going through the challenges of growing up or working really hard or being a parent or being single, being in a relationship, being rich or poor or having some kind of loss, giving yourself permission to just be in that moment and be present and experience all of it is going to serve you well in the long run. Because if you don't do that and you don't allow yourself that time and space, then you are not going to, you're not going to work through it. You're just going to suppress it and it will come back and bite you on the arse later. So all of the phases of life need their own, why have I lost my words? Need honouring, need to be given space and time for you to go through. So whatever season you find yourself in right now, embrace it and embrace everything that you can while it lasts. And remember that nothing lasts forever. Life is always changing. It's always moving. It's always in a cycle. So embrace it while it's good. And when it's not so good, know that better days are on the way. They're just around the corner. One of my relatives who's experienced a huge loss recently and is in a very difficult season of life put a quote on Facebook today, and I saw it actually while I was writing my notes, so that's why I'm including it, because I was like, well, if that ain't a sign. And I thought it was really relevant to this episode, and it said, if you feel like you're losing everything, remember that the trees lose their leaves every year and they still stand tall, and know that better days are coming. How very true. Something else to add to that is not putting too much pressure on yourself to have this perfectly balanced life, because that is something that's really difficult to achieve, and I would imagine that that comes much later on, if ever. But while you are being a parent to a young child, you're not going to be likely to be excelling at your career. And while you are focusing on your career or your passion or whatever it is that you're going after, you're probably not going to be that social and have really great social occasions with your friends and family while you are, while you are going through some kind of loss, some grief. Then you're not going to have a perfect home. It's not always perfectly balanced, and that's all right. You can have a year where you just focus on your health. You can have a year where you focus on looking after your babies. You can have one where you work really hard and miss out on some social occasions for the long run to be better. So don't put too much pressure on yourself to have everything perfectly balanced, because it's just not realistic, and embrace that season of life that you are in. So I hope that you enjoyed that episode. That was quite a short one for me, wasn't it? And if you did, let me know. I'd be very grateful if you could take a second to leave me a review on Apple. It will really, really help me out. Come and join us on the Facebook group and tag me in your stories to let me know when and where you are listening. I am intrigued. So have a wonderful week, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.